We start with IT-Mate. Public access to court records in the Delphi double murder case is coming under fire. Richard Allen is due in court tomorrow for a hearing that could change the course of this case. IT-Mate senior investigative reporter Richard Essex is following the story for us.
Typically, court filings are public unless one of the parties involved files a notice of exclusion to make the document confidential. Now, many of the documents filed in this case have had such a form filed, but many have not. But they still remain out of the public view and confidential.
You know, unfortunately, a lot of the filings have been kept confidential, and we don't know much. And some of those have been kept confidential despite no notice of exclusion form being filed.
Shay Hughes works for the Tippecanoe County Public Defender's Office and uses the Twitter handle Hoosier Public Defender. He says he's kept a close eye on this case and told me it is unusual for any criminal case, regardless of how high profile, to have virtually every document kept confidential without a special form filed with the court.
It is pretty unusual. I will say the number of filings itself, let's just set aside the number of filings that remain confidential without a notice of exclusion. There are still a number of filings that have been marked confidential with a notice of exclusion that you would not often see in an ordinary criminal case. And then if you want to add in the number of filings that remain confidential, despite no filing of a notice of exclusion, then yes, this is it is an unordinary case.
Richard Allen is accused of the 2017 murders of Abby Williams and Libby German. The two were found near the Monon High Bridge on February 14th. A single unfired bullet was found near the girls. Investigators say tests linked that bullet to a firearm owned by Richard Allen, but investigators have still not disclosed how the girls died. His lawyers have filed motions this week asking the judge to kick out or limit information about ballistics testing, plus other requests to quash subpoenas or exclude mental health records and other recordings taken from Westville Correctional and Allen's place of employment, all of which is sealed by the court and out of the public view. There was also a letter written to the court by a Westville Correctional inmate that is also sealed. We know that Allen was being held at that same facility, but we don't know if he in fact wrote the letter or if he's even still there. Opening up these documents for public view will require a court order, which is exactly what the podcasters from the Murder Sheet are hoping a motion they filed recently will do. Hughes believes the motion has merit.
You know, but what I can say is I do think they're onto something. Some of those documents, there was no notice of exclusion filed, and, you know, there was no order pursuant to Access to Court Records Rule 6. And there was nothing to suggest that it had to be sealed otherwise. And I think for those documents that it's ultimately, I think those are likely to get released. I think the letter is probably going to remain confidential. Again, we're speculating, but most likely from the defendant. You know, what I have seen in such circumstances and what probably should have been done is generally you ask that be struck.
Will some of the documents be made public? Well, Hughes believes that some of them will, but others will remain confidential. The judge is not expected to make a ruling tomorrow. In Indianapolis, Richard Essex, Switch TV, IT-Mate.